The nurse observes them, doctor administers the medicine to them, and it's really helped people who had depression that doesn't respond. In addition to seeing patients, we do quite a bit of community education. One of the highlights of that is mental health first aid that we provide to various groups in the community so that individuals feel more comfortable dealing with issues that arise around them, people that have mental health issues, and helping get them to the treatment and help they need. I understand we have done multiple education sessions this last year, including with county staff, and that's something we don't charge other than for the books that people have to buy. So overall, it's been a very positive year. Unfortunately, we see more individuals, but in the other way I look at that is if people need the help, they're getting in and getting the help that they need. We very much appreciate the support provided by all 20 of our counties, and we'll be talking about funding requests next week, I believe. But I'll stop there and see if there are any questions on our annual report.
Well, you mentioned that you've seen a 10% increase on services, or
the cost of services.
Cost of services. Do you foresee, with your buildup, do you foresee a 10% growth on the services you offer?
That would be, that does reflect the services offered.
That does, okay.
Because the intensity, with seeing people more frequently, that results in an increased cost.
Okay, okay. Do you think it's going to continue at that rate? We went through a buildup and a special time, obviously.
Right.
Do we think it's going to continue?
I believe it will, or at least will level out. I mean, that's our purpose, is to be there to provide those services. A challenge that we are facing is with the public health emergency cycling down, we may see fewer individuals with Medicaid, because there are a number of Medicaid individuals who are going to have to now recertify for Medicaid eligibility. They didn't have to for almost 2 years. And some people are projecting a 15 to 20% reduction in number of individuals that have Medicaid. You know, it doesn't really matter whether someone has a payer source, though, to come to us. We serve individuals regardless of payer source or ability to pay. I think as we identify more and more folks, particularly in school settings, in jails, these other kinds of settings, we will at least hold our own. And our projections are sustainability for these, to sustain these programs that we built up with all of this federal money.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming in and give us an update. I serve on the board for High Plains, so I get a little these details each month, and I appreciate it. It's a good board to be on and a good organization to be a part of and listen to each month. It's a tough situation. We see a buildup of services, and yet we look at our 20 counties, the population-wise, it's kind of shrinking, but the needs are greater than what.
Yeah, when we look at the demand for services versus per capita basis, Ellis County is the second highest in a per capita demand for services of all of the counties. You know, the shrinking population creates challenges, but it also creates opportunities. We're seeing a lot of new folks coming here into Hayes. We're reaching out to various populations. The Hispanic population is growing pretty rapidly in our area. We have now 4 or 5 Spanish-speaking staff who work with those populations, and also the ag community is an area that of great concern to us. I read an article this morning that says Kansas may be importing wheat from outside countries because of the challenges with the upcoming harvest. And but I do want to appreciate Michael's service as the new board member to Ellis County. We do have an alternate, Bill Ring, who is very faithful in attending, and appreciate your support. Always glad to come and visit about concerns or questions that you or county staff have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next, we'll have a R9 Ranch Water Project update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Toby Doherty, Hayes City Manager. With me is Hayes Mayor Sean Musel. Thank you for allowing us to come in this morning and give you a quick update on the R9 Ranch project. In 2014, the governing bodies of Hayes and Russell signed a joint interlocal agreement and directed me to begin the regulatory process to develop the R9 as a long-term water supply for the two cities as well as the region. In 2015, the Ellis County Commission provided a letter of support for the project, and so I've tried to come in and give periodic updates as we've progressed. We filed the initial change applications to convert the water rights from irrigation to municipal in 2015, and we spent 7 years navigating that process. That process culminated last year, and we started the process that we're currently in, which is the Water Transfer Act process. The Water Transfer Act is a series of statutes that deal with transfers of water more than 2,000 acre feet, more than 35 miles. It's a series of statutes that has not been enacted in its current form. And to highly summarize the process, there's a statewide benefits test that we have to meet. There are 26 criteria in the statutes that we have to comply with, but the biggest provision in the statutes is that the state has to benefit by authorizing the transfer. There's a hearing panel that oversees a hearing officer, and then there's an administrative hearing to ensure that we're complying with the statutes. So this is all culminating with a hearing that's going to take place in Wichita. By statute, the hearing has to take place in the basin of origin, Arkansas River Basin. So the administrative law judge, a gentleman named Matt Spurgeon, that's overseeing the hearing process and serving as the hearing officer, he chose Wichita as the location. The hearing is scheduled to begin July 19th and then run through August 3rd. It could be extended for good reason, but right now it's July 19th through August 3rd. The hearing will actually be live streamed, and I'll make sure I share with Darren all of the particulars in case you guys want to pay attention to it. Also, as part of the process is the state statute requires for a public comment hearing in the basin of destination. And so the judge has selected June 20th as a date for the public comment hearing, and I've provided some paperwork that you have. So at 6 p.m. in the Black and Gold Room at Fort Hays State University, the administrative law judge will hold a public comment hearing. And the public comment hearing is different from the actual hearing where we have to present our case and our burden of proof on the actual compliance to the Transfer Act. The public comment hearing is a venue for the judge to essentially solicit public comment from interested citizens on the project itself. So the structure of the public comment hearing is John Quinday, the Russell City Manager, and myself will do a brief 10-minute presentation on the project and why we're undertaking it. Any interveners that are involved in the process will have 10 minutes to state their case or opinion on the matter, and then the public will have the opportunity to offer their input. It's not a debate. It's not meant to be a back and forth. It's not meant to be a response to anything that was said previously. It's just a matter of gathering public record. And the way the administrative law judge has structured it is it's either 2 hours long or until people are not, run out of people to talk. And the day before that, on June 19th at 6 p.m., there is a joint governing body meeting. Hayes and Russell are meeting in the Hayes City Commission chambers if you were interested in attending that. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions. And, I would like to add one thing. Last month, the City Commission approved the design contracts for the project with Burns and McDonnell. And so we are working diligently to get design of the project complete. That's about an 18-month process, and we're hoping that design will finish concurrently with the regulatory process and then possibly any appeals of the regulatory process. So when we get through that, we'll have the project design, that we can get it out to bid and then get a project built.
Yeah, I just want to say, we've talked to Victoria and Ellis, and like we've told everybody, this is not just for Hayes, it's for Ellis County, it's for our region, and, you guys have showed support in the past. Hope you'll continue to show support. Come to a public comment, because the more people we can get in there, I think it'll show them that, we're serious about there. But, thank you guys for your support.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate that and look forward to hearing more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have the award of the Department of KDOT 2025 High Risk Rural Road Grant. Brennan?
Morning, Commissioners. Brendan McKay, Ellis County Public Works Director. So before you is the award for $595,000 for the High Risk Rural Road Grant that we applied for successfully. It's going to be updating some pavement markings along some of the paved roads, and then reevaluating the no passing zone signs and potentially updating those and changing those to fresh ones. The older signs that do get pulled out, we'll reuse as stock, the posts, reuse those, reuse the anchors, reuse the signs, and then ones that are torn up or damaged, on days of inclement weather, we have the guys tear them apart and make sign savers out of them. Basically those little metal tabs you see on other signs out there, because Kansas can be a little windy at times. Keeps the signs from tearing off the post. So the only thing I'd have to ask you for is, if you approve this, if you'd sign the Form 1302, and I can get that back to the state, and we can get started on this. If you have any questions on it.
And this is only scheduled to start in 2025?
So it's federal fiscal year 2025, so it could be as early as midsummer next year.
Okay.
So that, because it is federal money coming to the state, and the state's administering that portion, or delving out those funds. It's a locally administered project, so in order for the county to be eligible, I had to complete some coursework. I did that back in '21. It's got a 3-year renewal cycle on it. It's pre-programmed certification. It's a 2-hour-long class that I sat through and passed the test on, so allows us to accept these awards for all the state grants that use federal funds.
Was this the only portion of this grant that we applied for? Or
Yeah.
was there any other abilities, I guess?
No, so this portion of the grant, the High Risk Rural Road Grant, is based off of the items that are found in the local road safety plan that was conducted back in 19 and 20. And things that aren't listed in there, it's for some site-specific is what's listed on the local road safety plan. This is a systemic safety improvement. So although this isn't directly listed, it's an eligible project. The other projects that are listed on there, you have like the Toulon Road widening, which we have planned for the future. That's on a cost share basis, where the county has funds that they have to put in towards this. This one's 100% funded from federal and state money. So this was a really no cost to the county, besides my time putting the grant together and then some time managing the payments. But
Okay.
we had applied for this before we had gotten word of when we were receiving all of that money back from the state as part of the Northwest Business Corridor. And with some changes being done to some of the bridges, I felt it was better to apply for this. We had applied for it the previous year and didn't get selected doing a portion of it, so we applied looking at everyone that had been awarded, saw there was more awards for systemic instead of site-specific or area-specific awards, because there was, I believe, $8.8 million of projects awarded, and we got just under $600,000 of that.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
It does. I was just curious if there was more caveats or different routes that we could have gone.
There's other projects we could have done, but without knowing where the commission sat on some of these bridges, that whether we apply for them for grant funding or we fund outright, this was a safer option for the county in order to have the funds available for other projects in the future.
Okay. You have any?
So this, you kind of answered mine. I mean, it's in here, no local match, so. It says route paved 126 miles, so will this cover all?
No, so some of
Okay.
our paved roads are not on the major collector system.
Okay. How many paved marked roads will not be?
About 20.
About 20. So even though we don't have a local match, and this is for 20, is that something where, as a county, we want to just pave and find money to make sure all our paved roads are marked then? If we're
So
getting this
we
much done?
we
for-
do actually pave our roads. They're done every 3 years is what we get about out of those pavement markings.
Okay.
And we budget $50,000 each year for pavement markings.
Okay.
So basically, this will allow me to use that $50,000 in 2 years' time for additional pavement
Okay.
maintenance,
Okay,
instead of using it for paint striping, because we can paint it, and then this project will come around and they'll restripe those lines for us.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Any questions?
Anything else? Okay.
I think it's fine, so I move to accept the
Federal fiscal year,
federal fiscal year 2025 KDOT High Risk Rural Road Grant in the amount of $595,000.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. It passed.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you, Brian.
Next, we have Planning Commission appointments.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin Craig, Environmental Services Director. Before you this morning is a request to reappoint Mr. Mark Brackney and Mr. Brett Schmidt to 3-year terms on the Joint Planning Commission. Each year, 2 members' terms expire on June 30th. I've spoken to both gentlemen, and they have accepted or affirmed that they are willing to accept 3-year terms. With that, I'll stand for questions.
I've served with both of these individuals on the Planning Commission, and I'm glad they accepted to do it another 3 years. So,
Yeah, no questions. I move to reappoint Mark Brackney and Brett Schmidt to 3-year terms on the Joint Planning Commission effective July 1st, 2023.
I'll second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so, okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our Ellis County Health Department COVID update.
Good morning, Kim Rail, Director of the Health Department. Darren, can you pull up that first attachment that I sent to you this morning? Nope, the other one. Yep, that graph there. Okay, so over the past 3 years, as you guys are fully aware, public health responded to COVID in an emergency manner, meaning that if you tested positive within the first 24 hours, typically you would get a call from us asking you questions about your symptoms, what you were experiencing, things of that nature. As of May 11th of this year, that emergency response ended for public health, meaning that you are no longer going to be called if you tested positive. It's kind of up to you at this point. You should know what to do, meaning 5 days at home, 5 days with mask. Furthermore, the ACIP, which is the Advisory Council for Immunization Practice, on May 11th had not given us written approval to proceed with COVID vaccinations. This is the council that advises CDC, in turn KDHE, on how we give immunizations and standing orders that go with those. So because ACIP did not give written orders, we halted and stopped our vaccination process for COVID at that time. On May 25th, they came down with standing orders that was signed off by ACIP, CDC, and KDHE, and we have since resumed COVID vaccinations. If you can go to the second one now. So 10 minutes before I walked in, This is the Ellis County data report for COVID for the past 3 years, so let's kind of walk through it real quick. Case count, so they broke it down by the years of positive cases in Ellis County, so we ended up with a total of 8,486 of total positive cases for Ellis County. Scroll down a little bit, Darren. Case definition. So for Ellis County, we had a total confirmed case of 84.9 with probable being at 15.1. Now the difference in that is that the confirmed cases are PCR resulted COVID cases, meaning that we swabbed that person and that specimen got sent into KDHE for testing. During the middle of the pandemic, they switched to probable cases because we went to a rapid test where we could run the test here locally, and we would use a solution and it would tell us if it was positive or negative. So the probable cases stem from the rapid tests only, not PCR tests. So there's your case definitions for COVID. And then number of cases by symptom onset date. This goes from March of 2020 through May of 2023. You'll see the spikes that were November of 2020 and then January of 2022. Typically speaking, what we saw during COVID was we would see a spike, generally speaking, within 2 weeks after a major holiday. And it was just standard for the past 3 years. You can go down to hospitalizations. That shows hospitalizations. During the investigation portion, at the beginning of COVID, they had a hospitalization question where we would have to ask the patient if they were hospitalized for a certain amount of time. That tapered off, so that's where the discrepancy shows in there. And then it goes to the deaths. Ellis County does report 93 deaths from COVID, which our first death came in July of 2020, I believe. And it was a 90-year-old male with multiple comorbidities, but because he tested positive for COVID, he's counted as a COVID death for the state of Kansas. And then the age data, this breaks down the number of total cases by age group. Can you scroll down a little bit more for me, Darren? There you go. So as you can see, those that were 18 to 24, we had 1702 in positive cases for Ellis County, and then the second being 55 to 64. Now, does Fort Hays State play into this? I'm sure that they do, but unfortunately, there were COVID parties happening all over Ellis County where they would just spread the love of COVID, and that stemmed from high schools all the way up to older adults as well. And then here's going to be the breakdown of the manufacturers of COVID, or COVID vaccinations. So it shows, these are breakthrough cases. So these are going to be the people that were vaccinated with Janssen, Moderna, and Pfizer, how it broke down if they tested positive with vaccination status. So it shows that those that had Moderna, generally speaking, have more breakthrough cases than those that had Pfizer or Janssen, according to KDHE's information here. And then at the third one, Darren.
Did you send me 3 of them?
Yeah, there should have been in there. And then just for kicks, over the past week and a half, I took the, it was in that same email. The one, that first graph, yep, that you pulled up.
That one?
Yeah, can you scroll down off that?
That's just a picture.
Yeah, but that first one that, the history, go over.
This one?
Yep. So here's 11 pages of the history of COVID for Ellis County, broke down by month. Maybe what we saw, what happened. This is going off press releases that Jason did during his time that he was director. It goes all the way back to January 2020. Just to highlight, March 7th, we had our first reported case in Kansas. April 3rd of 2020, we had our first case of COVID for Ellis County. April 12th, we had our second positive case for COVID County. July 17th was the first death from COVID. In March of 2021, that would have been when we were doing our mass vaccination at the mall. We ended up doing 8,000 doses of COVID vaccine in I believe, a week at the mall, if memory serves. But other than that, if you guys would like a copy of this, I'd be more than happy to send it out to you. And it talks about everything that we went through, the meetings that we went through, how we put together a COVID response team that Jason and I were a part of between 489, Fort Hays State, things of that nature. It's just full of information and all the changes that we went through. Any questions?
Your excuse me, your data on 8,000 cases for Ellis County, that's compiled from all the providers. It's not just that
Correct.
came through your office.
That's correct.
Okay. It's lower than I expected.
That was 8,000 calls that we made from the health department, though. That's the
Yeah.
difference,
Yep.
with approximately 12 people.
Yep.
So the vaccine through the county is still free.
Yes. Vaccines are still free.
Starting May 25th again, COVID immunizations are still available at the county.
Yep. We have Pfizer and Moderna available Monday through Thursday at the times that we're open. We're also doing free COVID testing as well. The one thing that KDHE has asked us to do is test those that are symptomatic, meaning you have to have a symptom to test. If you need a test for work or for travel, you would need to get that from your primary care physician, or Hayes Med walk-in was doing those during COVID.
Okay.
So other than COVID, what other vaccines, school, once we get school here in a few months, take kids to the county health and
Yep.
shots for everything?
So that brings me to the very last thing. About a month ago, Carla and I went to the Northwest Kansas Area Agency on Aging Information Day, and a group of us got to talking about, has Hayes ever had a community information day where businesses can come out and talk to you about what they do, what they provide, and the impact that it could make on individual citizens for Ellis County? And the answer ultimately came to be no. So what do? I'm putting one together. So on July 22nd, from 8 to 3 at the mall, we are having a community fair information day where any business can come out and set up. We currently have, as of yesterday, over 40 confirmed businesses with 20 maybes, and then we have 73 people that are supposed to be calling us back. We've got a couple of food trucks that are coming to help feed everybody, but it's just a way to, now that we are post-COVID, get information out about businesses or small businesses, bakeries, T-shirts, whatever you want to do. If you want to be a part of the day, it's free of charge. There is no charge to anyone. Thankfully, Big Creek Crossing and I had a conversation, and they're giving us the space for free, so there's no charge. But specifically speaking for the health department, we will be doing back-to-school physicals and vaccinations on site that day. There will be a link that will be sent out that you will need to sign up if you need to do a physical. It'll be $25 cash or check that day if you don't want us to send it to the insurance company, but we also have the ability to do that as well. Pretty sure Lori's going to help me get internet and our printers and everything out there so we can get everything taken care of ahead of time versus waiting to the last minute of back to school rush and all of a sudden you need a physical for your child. So, and I will point out that Keisha does have a brand new physical form. Hayes High will be requiring that new form. If you do have the old one filled out by your primary care, it will not be accepted by Hayes High. So make sure that you're using the right form by Keisha. Any other?
Will you be making public announcements up to and prior on that? Okay.
Yep. We have we have this flyer. It was handed out at the executive team meeting last week. We have it all over our Facebook page. I've already contacted radios. We're going to kind of ramp up some radio advertising here in the next couple of weeks. We just wanted to kind of get more businesses on board before we kind of ramped it up a little bit, so.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a floor scrubber purchase for the Unrein Shank building.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Before you on the next agenda item is to consider a purchase of a new floor scrubber for the Shank and Unrein building. Our fairgrounds management team, and Tom is out, there he is. He's still out in the audience, but he brought forth the need to replace the floor scrubber that's out there. It is several years old and is getting on its last limb and needs several $1,000s worth of repairs. So I asked him to go out and get bids for a replacement scrubber. So attached with your agenda are those floor scrubbers that we had bids on. I will note a couple things on it. First is we would be using Fund 15, which is a fund that we have set aside for partial rental and return fees that are given when people do rent and insure the building for their events that they have out there, and that would be the fund that we would use to pay for this. Second is the actual price. The low bid for a floor scrubber was out of a company in Kansas City, I believe, and we're actually requesting to go with the second lowest bid, which is only a $200 difference. And the reason for that is to stay local in Ellis County for Ellis County business. And we do have a provision in our purchasing policy that identifies trying to stay local when we can. And that lowest bid, or the second lowest bid here locally, was with Fastenal. So we are requesting the purchase of that. I just wanted to bring it in front of the commission since this is a little bit different purchase that we haven't really done for many years, using Fund 15 for something to improve the cleaning operations that Tom does out there at the fairgrounds. And Tom is here if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to visit with him about. Not that I'm trying to put him on the spot to get him to talk, but
It's just kind of a maintenance item. I don't have any, after looking through the bids, there's quite a difference from the low to the high. So, I'd be in favor of that. Michael, do you have any?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I think that's fine. Yeah, use local. That's
Okay.
and also for clarification too, it's within my purchasing authority to do that, but since it was a new purchase out of Fund 15 that hasn't been used for several years for any specific person, I did want to bring it to the commission just for awareness.
Is Fund 15 sound if we use that for this?
Correct. It's got a cash balance of over 35,000, and it grows by, last couple of years it's grown by several thousand every year, so it's sustainable.
Okay.
This isn't going to impact anything.
Okay. Well, then I move we approve PO number 7727.
yeah. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
One thing I did want to say too, if I may, just want to share these pictures of, I believe I had a before and after. Last year, the meeting with the Fair Board and Tom, we talked about the need of the Shank and Unrein buildings out there. As you can see, the front of the building, I believe there's 5 different colors actually as part of the building throughout the front from east to west. Tom went out and got bids, and just last week they have completed the repainting of the building. So there's the Shank side, which is the north, and the Unrein building, which is the south part of that building. Carrillo Painting completed that off of last year's purchase order, and Tom coordinated the effort. So I wanted to recognize that they did a great job. It looks fantastic, but also appreciate, send thanks to Tom for the work that he does out there. They do a very well job in managing that facility, upkeep and maintaining it as well. And so I just wanted to give him some appreciation since he was here too.
Looks good.
Looks
Thank
really
you.
good.
Okay. Next item is the administrative stair removal.
Moving on to the next agenda is the replacement of the stairs. So in reference, the column that is sitting out there in the middle of the audience is a support structure for the stairs are in the main lobby that are essentially to nowhere. You can't go down the stairs, you can't go up the stairs, they're blocked off on both sides. That was a option that was cut out of the remodel when county staff moved into this building in 2015. This has been considered several times over the last 8 or 9 years since the county has been in this building. And it's becoming to a point with that the treasurer, which is also out there, if you would like to speak or you could ask questions, it really impacts their operations from having the visibility from them to the public of knowing which window, or if anybody's even sitting at the window, for them to be able to serve the public. And then the county clerk has also expressed the idea that if those stairs would be removed, they would also have the ability to expand their elections operations for early voting and such, so that way they aren't in such a cramped space and they can spread out a little bit to assist with the voting in that area as well whenever she's needed. So staff is requesting that the commission give permission to accept the bid from commercial builders. Vern Reuter, the county treasurer, has agreed to use his capital funds to pay for this, which wouldn't impact our other county operations for this. He does have sufficient funds, and unless he's changed his mind in the last week, he's still willing to pay for that out of there. So we would request your approval to approve the PO and move forward with the process. The builders have agreed to be done in approximately 120 days, which would meet almost right up to the election period for November, in case the clerk would need to use the area out there for elections this year. They have agreed to work that out in advance to be done before then, as well as do some work after hours and on weekends when the heavy demolition and carrying in the red iron and welding and all that takes place.
Okay. I mean, the savings that we saved has cost us 3 times now, so.
That's the thing, and it's one of those things that, as you said, every year, every other year, it keeps coming up. It will continue to keep coming up until something's done. So we're at a point, and I think our commission can get it done. So
Yeah.
and it'll help multiple departments and even our own commission chamber. So yeah, let's get it done. So
Okay.
I move to approve PO number 7728 for the removal of the stairs at the Ellis County Administrative Building.
I'll second that. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. It's approved. We can get rid of stairways to nowhere.
It will be, we'll put some public announcements out to the public, because it will disrupt a little bit of traffic. It will be noisy, it will get a little dirty. They will make precautions to try to lower that as much as possible, but it will be, for the next 4 months, a construction zone again.
Well, hopefully this will be the last construction zone in that area.
We have the skylights that were hailed out, and we're working on an RFP to get those replaced. So that will be coming forth to the commission for an insurance claim to get those replaced in the coming months as well.
Okay.
Not quite yet.
Will that have any impact on this project here?
No, I haven't got the RFP put together. We got specs back and designs for the skylights, and it'll take, after notice to proceed, after a bid is awarded, if it's awarded, it'll take some time to get them all ordered in.
Okay.
So it'll be done later this fall.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, we have the discharge of fireworks in 2023.
I'm sorry for the, I guess it is 2023, I'm sorry. Continuing on here, the county commission passed a resolution 2018-05 back in 2018, which bans the sale and use of fireworks, or the discharge of fireworks throughout the county, except for during times that the county commission would choose to relax the discharge portion of the resolution to allow county citizens in the unincorporated areas of the county to discharge fireworks. It's always a hard choice. Here locally, we've been blessed to actually start getting some rain, and things are starting to grain up quite a bit quickly, more quickly. However, it seems like after this resolution gets passed every year, the rain goes away, and the concern comes back of the allowance of discharge of fireworks. But it is up to the commission to allow that to be lifted each year. So we bring it to the commission every year, the first commission meeting in June. So this is up for your decision to allow it to be lifted.
Will this impact the sale hours or dates?
So the sale is still determined. They have to file I don't remember the exact form with the county clerk to get the permit. And then the sale of fireworks is then approved within the cities of Shinshin, Hayes, or Ellis, or Victoria, if they would allow it. All those stipulations are then on the city, on their ordinance and fire codes and everything to enforce the sale of fireworks. Sale of fireworks in the unincorporated outside those cities are not allowed.
Okay. So,
Bobby Droughting, County Clerk. No one has to go through my office on that. They have to go through the city.
The city office?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember
Just
which
wanted
office.
to clarify that.
okay. So the sale of the fireworks will be administered by the cities and will have no impact on our
Correct.
county?
We don't
Okay.
have any say in that. Well, we could if we would change the resolution and the county commission would allow the sale of fireworks in the county, but each year someone actually had a lady call, and I think they're they're going to work with the city of Victoria and sell them within the city limits over there. But I think twice over the last 8 or 9 years I've been asked, and it's never been requested other than that, because they end up just staying within the city to make the sale.
Okay. Well, I have no problems allowing the discharge of the fireworks pursuant to it, so.
I guess if we pass the resolution today, we have 2 more meetings before the July. I guess I do have some of those concerns that it stops raining the minute we pass this, and then 2 weeks from now, we're back into a position where the county is dry, and from an emergency standpoint, you may say, man, that's not a good idea now. I guess we have 2 more meetings, potentially take this back up and
You could, yes.
approve it.
The downside to it is, at this point, the youth organizations and all them, they're all ordering their fireworks. So this is kind of their approval, I guess, so to speak, that they placed their order for all their fireworks stands. That if we were to change our minds, I'm not sure how that would impact them with not being able to sell, or if they would have a loss because they couldn't. But even if we didn't allow it, the cities of Hayes, Ellis, and Victoria still could sell it and still could allow it, the discharge of fireworks. It just makes the enforcement piece of it harder, because who's shooting where, and being at the right, for a sheriff's deputy to be at the right place at the right time to see where it was discharged from, makes it a little more difficult.
Yes, Toby's not, has the city passed theirs, or is it,
I
they don't have a
don't
meeting
believe
this
so.
Thursday, so.
They canceled their meeting, but I haven't heard anything that there's being anything changed from previous years.
Okay.
Well, I'm for this, and it comes down to some self-responsibility, and people need to understand they're responsible for their actions. I mean, there's laws around it. There's all sorts of different stipulations if they, cause a problem or damage somebody else's property. So,
And there was legislation this year, did not pass through, but to allow the sale of fireworks year-round throughout the state of Kansas too, but it did fail, and but it keeps, I think it's going to get brought up again next year as well. So that might be something we have to continue with
Yeah.
next year.
right. So, okay.
That's fine.
Well, I'll move for resolution 2018-05 to relax the discharge portion of this resolution in the unincorporated areas of Ellis County, July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, during the hours of 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Second.
Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we move to our draft operating budgets.
Continuing on, Darren Myers, County Administrator. First, I appreciate each of the commissioners' times. Over the last 3 or 4 days, I met with you each individually for about 3 or 4 hours each to go over in more detail on the budget itself. So I won't spend 3 or 4 hours going over it again because we would lose your attention as well as everybody in the audience. But we do have the first draft of the 2024 budget put together, and it is in the packet, and it's also been sent to you for review, and we have since met. Some of the things that is in the current budget that is attached are bulleted out, and I will just go over them real quick. A couple things would be the cost of some type of pay adjustment for employees for 2024 to include either step increases, COLA increases, or a variation of both. I have put out listserv questions with both the county administrators across the state, and I'm on the listserv for the city managers throughout the state. And I'm collecting data on what other cities and counties are doing as well. So that way we can help see in comparison of what others are doing so we can try to stay within the market. And I think I've got about 20 or 25 responses so far. Within the budget is a continued funding of currently about 3 to 4 mills or $1.6 million that's being transferred to the Special Highway Fund in 2024. That's for projects for roads and bridges, as we start beefing up that account to be able to do more to maintain and improve our county road and bridge infrastructure. In the budget is the option to pay off our general obligation bonds that the county took out in 2013 for the remodel of this building, as well as the 601 main building down the street, which at the time was used for the health department. That has been, we were weighing that out with each of the commissioners as to pay that off completely or use those funds and continue to paying off on for the next 3 or 4 years and use the funds to do more for other options that are listed below. As the commission is aware, the EMPG, which is the Emergency Management Performance Grant, as part of this budget, that will increase or offset about 1/3 of the emergency management budget. That's based on different criteria that the emergency manager has to do to include exercises, training, and workshops to improve the readiness of Ellis County and the agencies within. The individual commissioners have asked about providing a service to our employees for some type of professional development and learning management. So that way we can assign, track, and build our staff in many different aspects besides just their specific job they do, to include items such as maybe forklift safety, bloodborne pathogens, Microsoft Office duties, leadership training, management training, HR training. And that it will be tied in with our UKG program if the commission wants us to proceed with that. So that is within the budget in the county administrator's training budget line to pay for. And then outside the general fund is a change in the fire district to change the classification of volunteer firefighters to part-time employees. In other words, changing them from a contract employee to a part-time employee in regards to IRS guidelines on the proper way to pay them and how to pay them. Basically, instead of giving them a contract 1099 at the end of the year for their contractual services, they would be paid out of payroll and be issued a W-2. So that does change, and that's the biggest significant change to the fire district itself. I'll stop there real quick. Besides the fact that it does include a 10% cost of increase for health insurance. That is the estimate. We won't know that until we'll be able to adjust that up or down later in the budget year, come about August, and we'll get our renewal rates after the budget is renewed. But we'll try to get that as close as possible when we get so it is close to the actual rates when we get them in September. So I will stop there real quick with what is included in the budget and see if there's any questions.
None that we haven't addressed so far.
Okay.
Wait, Darren, I do have one question. On the Special Highway Fund, the road and bridge, if we go ahead and fund it at a 1.6 million to that, where does that leave us on that item, on that fund?
The cash balance?
Yeah.
I could get with you after, so I'm not scrolling through many sheets to look at it. If I remember right, the balance currently before any transfer this year or that transfer next year is about 3 to 4 million.
Okay.
So it's better than it's ever been. Now we got several projects, several grant applications that are out there that are gonna eat into it quickly, and some projects that need to be done, but at least we have the funding that's being put in there, as well as a balance built up. And I believe that's a wish of the commission, not only to start moving forward with projects now that the funds are there, but also maintain a balance for emergency repairs of say a bridge would collapse again and we need $1 million and a half to fund it. That money is in there as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Some options that the commission has considered over the budget process since we started several months ago for consideration. These items, there's about, 5 or 6 of them. These are not in the budget. However, I just wanted to highlight them so that way as we move through the process, the commission can give guidance on whether they want to continue looking at them or not. The first one is the Rural Opportunity Zone, or ROZ. That provides benefits that we recruit individuals into Ellis County, either they have to move from out of the county into the county or out of state into the state to be able to get different IRS or income tax reductions from the state or student loan payoff. We are a ROZ zone. We approve the resolution, but we do not fund it. Within the agenda item there, it does state that 93, I think, out of the 95 counties that are eligible do cooperate, and only about a third of them fund it, and they fund it from variations between 50 to 45,000. So as we move forward with the process and the commission's able to visit at the meetings, we would need direction as if you want to move forward with that and at what level. The other piece to that the idea has gotten brought up is to have maybe not fund the ROZ completely, but possibly do some type of a scholarship system to students of Ellis County that the county commission could award in a certain amount. Could they be renewable or not? All of those could be ironed out. It's basically we just need to figure out if it needs to be funded. But those scholarships would be awarded to the students, and I think it'd be good to market it to Ellis and Victoria as well, their school districts, as well as TMP. And the goal is to be able to retain those students in Ellis County to attend at Ellis County College. I know there's some different thoughts there between NCK and Fort Hays and the Hays Academy of Hair Designs, but those are all the details that can be worked out into the future. As if we did, $10,000, $1,000 scholarships a year, that's more of what the amount that we would need to know to be able to plug in there. Fortunately, that's probably the smallest item in the list here to consider adding into the budget for 2024. The next is the discussion that we have had in negotiations with the City of Hays. We have an agreement with the City of Hays to allow them access to the law enforcement center. That agreement has been in place for many years. We provide them the facility for their police department, and we do not house their inmates, or we don't charge the city inmate fees for the jail. And the county provides all the public safety radio equipment in the dispatch center and throughout the county. With the discussion of the City of Hays starting their plans to build a new police station over the next couple of years, that agreement will need to be revamped and relooked at. And part of that would be having the county essentially acquire the dispatchers. Part of the city agreement is that they pay the salaries for the dispatchers. We pay for everything else as part of that agreement. As that transition moves, as they move out, what their new building is for the county to start taking over dispatch. And that is about, it was about $1.1 million for those employees to be acquired by the county. And we are still in negotiations as we proceed through that. But that's, like I say, not in the budget, but it's something to consider as we determine what all you would like to have added. Part of that piece of that new agreement would be some additional revenue that the sheriff would receive to offset the expenses of the municipal court inmates that are in the jail. So that would be added if we proceed with that plan. Another option the commission has considered is some form of a grant writer and administrator to be able to look and apply for other grants throughout the different departments in Ellis County. That option, depending on how it could be structured or where it could be structured at, I would estimate at about $100,000 with salary and benefits. The staff has discussed a program for a benefit to both the county and the employees is a PTO buyback program. PTO is a paid time off, that's vacation. What that would essentially do would be setting a budget line item in place that the employee the previous year could request a certain amount of hours of their PTO to be bought back the following year. They essentially apply for it in July of this year and then could get a PTO buyback of up to 40 hours the following year. What that does is it allows them to be able to use that to it's money that's entitled to them already, whether they take the time off or not. But it allows them to be able to use it. Maybe they want to increase their school shopping or Christmas shopping or go on a vacation, they would have access to that. What that also does is gets 40 more hours if they were to choose to 40. Instead of them taking off 40 hours, we get 40 more hours of work out of the employee because they're not necessarily taking that time off. So that is a number I can't necessarily put onto you right now. However, if the commission is willing to consider that, I could at least get a rough estimate of who throughout the county of the 170 employees would be interested. And then I can do some estimates on how much that would actually be if, like I say, if the commission would be interested in that option.
Darren, with that option, that just takes dollars that are already allotted under salaries and it would move them to a separate line item. Is that correct?
It would still be paid out of salaries. The way in a spreadsheet that we use to track the employee costs would just be additional numbers instead of essentially working 2,080 hours a week for a normal, or 2,080 hours a year. They would be allotted 2,120 or whatever amount that they would build up to. And but those funds are still accounted for every year when we do the audit and cash or balance over from year to year. The PTO and the amount of hours on the last payroll period are transferred over and it's hard to explain. Janet just tried to explain it well. She's not in here anymore, but each year the last payroll period has different amounts of days in 1 year to the next. Mm-hmm. And then you have a different amount of PTO that you have to basically, you're liable for. And you might have 100 hours this year, you may have 50 hours the next year. And we have to account for those every year from year to year. So
Okay.
it would, like I said, I don't want to put a number on it right now because
Right.
I have no idea. I just didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it if the commission wasn't willing to consider it, I guess.
Gotcha.
One option that is in here is I think one that the commission is the most interested in is one of the final pages is to start to create a road maintenance plan in Ellis County and a different funding on how it's going to take to get there. I've explained this to the commission, but for those maybe in the public that may be interested, right now with the current funding, we can do about 7 miles of road a year, which includes sealing after that is done, an additional approximate 7 miles of sealing another 7 miles. So essentially coating some type of a road in some fashion or another about 14 miles. That is not sufficient, as the commission is aware, and Road and Bridge is aware of that as well. However, they're only limited to the amount of work that they can do compared to the amount of funding that the commission approves. I won't go into it in big detail, but there is several options. If a 5-year reduction, or a 5-year plan, which would reduce the amount of work that they do, which I know the commission is not in favor of. But you can increase that to a 5, 13, 15, and a 20-year option. And as you can see on that spreadsheet on one of the last pages of the agenda, if we improve to about a 10-mile plan, which is 10 miles of overlay every year and 10 miles of more, that's about $275,000. If we increase it to about 13 miles, it's about $475,000 in additional funding. And I think when you consider, I guess, a sweet spot, that's about where the Public Works, and I think with individual conversations with the commission, somewhere of one of those two options is where the commission would like to be. We just need the, I guess, decision in the coming weeks from the commission so Brendan can start working out a true plan that if we're going to do a 15 miles a year, and it'll be a 10-mile plan because we have about 150 total miles of asphalt road, that he can actually build out every year what 15 miles of road will be done. So that way we can put a plan together that the commission can plan for and show, but we can also show the public that these are the roads that are getting done each year, and start doing better road maintenance throughout the county. So we'll, as you have time more to process those and ask questions, we can follow up on that. The next option that's not in the budget is a change to the cost share program in noxious weed. As the commission is aware, all the noxious weed chemicals that we buy, we pay cost. And due to state statute, we have to sell those between 50 and 75%. So we lose money on essentially all the chemicals that we sell. It's being subsidized. So if we do restructure our noxious weeds department a little bit, it would capture several items that the commission has heard from the public that are of concern. One is that we don't mow ditches enough, or hardly ever. The second would be cleaning up the ditches and right-of-ways from trees and debris throughout the county that are overgrown, which would help the mowing, help line of sight as well, safety issues. And then the third option is that they could be out there, especially in the area of Hall Street and 55th, cleaning up the area from the debris that comes out of the landfill. We would essentially be able to increase the noxious weed, eliminate the cost share program, create revenue, and be able to essentially hire 2 new employees. And that would be about $160,000 of an expense. And we would be able to start doing those options in 2024 of mowing more right-of-ways, spraying more right-of-way, cleaning up trash, and cleaning up the ditches. So as we progress, we would like some direction on that so we can change the budget to include it. The time clock software changes, I did get some numbers in yesterday on that. So I wasn't able to process it because we spent several hours with GLMV on the phone yesterday, so I'll get more information on that. But that's basically changing our timekeeping software to a new program that has scheduling benefits for the 24-hour shifts for the EMS and law enforcement and the jail that we don't have now. And then at the July 18th meeting, that we'll have a special meeting between the commission and the staff on their individual departments. They will bring up items to you about different staffing requests that they would like to add for their individual departments. We felt that was the best option for them to be able to visit with you as the commission when they talk about their budget, so that way they can answer more specific questions and give you more detailed answers rather than me speaking on their behalf. So those will be coming up. And I believe there was only four requests, and one of the 4 has a funding option maybe to help pay, to offset those expenses. After that, I think I will just park it there. Like I said, we spent several hours with each of you over the weekend, so do you have any further questions or guidance on any of those that you would like us to stop working on or start working on a little bit more so we can provide you more information at a future meeting?
Well, I'd like a little more information, I guess, from Brendan on the increased budget on the road and bridge. While the proposed portion was for asphalt sealing and hard surfaced roads, what is the plan for increased gravel road and rock road maintenance? Is there a plan on some of that?
Okay, so I guess for that piece, could you give us a preliminary plan on what, because that's kind of, if we do more on the asphalt,
So,
it would,
well, kind of an offset. So, what's happened in the past? Because what I've seen happening is we've maintained a kind of stagnant public works area, and we've started going to maybe a two-pass system. We're getting more and more roads that are needing completely rebuilt, ditches pulled, stuff like as far as that goes, and it's how much more of that are we looking at doing? How many more miles of road need to be the ditch pulled up or completely regraded, more or less?
okay.
Because that'll be a demand that, you know, we can do some of this, but are we going to take away from somewhere else?
And I think that would be a part of it. Obviously, if the commission would go with a 20-year plan, that would lower the amount of gravel road maintenance that could be done.
That's correct.
So if, I guess, is there one of those 10 or 12 or 15-year plan that you would initially like us to start moving with so we can start making some plans on that?
I'd love to go to the Cadillac plan, but that's not feasible.
I can show that to everybody in the audience too.
I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see the 12-mile plan, which would be a 13-year plan.
That would be approximately increasing their budget by $472,000.
That is correct. But that's only based on pricing for 1 year, is it not? That's not based on pricing.
It could inflate every year after that, depending on cost.
Right, so we may budget this amount and plan for 12 miles in 24, but that same budgeted amount may only do 10 miles in 25.
Correct, and each year it would be readdressed that if the commission says we want to do a 15-year plan every year in Brendan's budget, those numbers would be added as oil price. If you just saw, I think the Saudis started cutting their oil supply, which was expecting the oil prices to go up. So those are going, that's coming to us now. That's going to happen in the future. We all know that. Oil is going to go up and down. That's going to impact it. The price of rock, as we have discussed, I believe with each of the commissioners, we changed the process of how we would obtain chip in the future. We are not feeling that, or Brendan doesn't feel that he's going to be able to get the chip rock out of Quartzsite in Lincoln County. So the price that we have here is from a quote from a local contractor to rail the chips in and have them delivered, which gets us the rock to be able to do the work, but it also frees up the truck drivers from not hauling rock out of county for however much time that would take. So all those factors could change. But at least it starts getting us on a plan, and it would just be up to the Public Works Director each year to look at those costs to see what he can and can't do with the funding, or request more funding if needed, as we prepare budgets each year.
Right. So, and the 12-mile plan or the 13-year plan effectively doubles more or less where we're at.
Correct. It would, we do about 7, it would add about 5, and that is a variation, like you say. It could be 6 depending on prices as we go through next year.
Yep.
I wish the 12-mile plan was a 12-year plan. I don't like 13.
Right.
I try just to split the difference between the,
So that, yeah, I think that's where we're probably going to land. I'll continue to look at these options over the next several months as we go through the budget, but I think if we try to push it to the 15 mile, 30 total miles at, 750,000, we're going to be hampering a lot of the other part of the budgets that we're trying to get done. So I think that's, but I don't want to shortchange anything either. So the 8-year plan's not feasible at 1.1 million. So, but that's kind of where I'm landing right there as well. 13-year, the 15-year plan, and I don't, like I said, the 10-year plan, it's probably not feasible again with what we're trying to accomplish elsewhere. My other comments on to get back to it, I think it's worth just looking into the paid time off because we can't budget if we don't know what the interest is. Doesn't cost us anything for you to find out what the interest is, and then we can weigh that option. And then at this point, I'm in the position, the grant writer administrator, I don't not necessarily back out of it, but I think that becomes the lowest priority of all the items we need. We got to figure out, as you said, dispatch, we're going to potentially bringing in a bunch more employees to the county, noxious weed, a couple new employees. I know the other departments, clerk, appraisers, treasurer's office, they're all wanting to probably add employees. So I think we need to kind of take care of our county employees and those kind of things first and get to a better spot before we go out and try to find a brand new position. And I don't think we've quite figured out what we want out of a grant writer, where they would be, if it's under you directly, if it's under the commission, if it's part of another organization that we contract out. So I think there's just too many questions that we're not going to be able to answer. And $100,000 to a position, I think right now we got other priorities. I think it's something we could certainly revisit, or at least put it towards the very bottom of this list. And then if we find through the budget process that we have some money, I don't think we will, but maybe we can address it. But for me, that's going to become a very low priority of all the other items at this point.
I'd like to add in there, the on the noxious weed, I think we need to go ahead and pursue into that. I've been on a number of roads in our county, and our right-of-ways there's places where we're getting overgrown. We keep getting calls for trash and other sorts, and I think just a small change on our noxious weed, we'd see big benefits throughout our county.
Yeah.
On our road system.
Yeah, I think that needs to be accomplished, and the road and bridge budget needs to be, to me, for me anyway, that's top priority. Noxious weed is very high, top priority. The dispatch and jail is all going to become this year, next year, so those become there. And I personally, the rural opportunity zones, and that's kind of where I'm, for the grant writer, backing out of that, because if there's one thing I want to, as an alternative, as an option that we have never done before, it would be the rural opportunity zone and the scholarship option. So those are kind of the higher priorities of this list. So
I'd agree on that.
Is there, so the rural opportunity zone are essentially in $1,500 increments per person. So like I said, the most a county's done is $45,000 for their line item for rural opportunity zone. That includes funding that would be for 30 people. We don't have a whole lot that are requesting it here in Ellis County. At least I haven't been informed of. There are some. I do get some denial letters every once in a while from the state, but should we start at maybe 15,000 for 10 people? I'm just trying to throw out a number to get us to get into the budget, I guess.
that was the number I threw out, just to start somewhere, it's 15,000. Again, I don't know what the demand is, but I think if there's something in there, and if we don't use it all, then that's fine, but it gets us started. It's a fairly minimal amount. And then I was thinking on scholarships, if we can figure that out, I was thinking about 10. So the total between the two is about 25. Or we could flip, 10,000 raws and 15 to scholarships if we feel like that's a better, whatever we think's best to attract people or keep people in Ellis County. So my thought was about 25,000 for that, that area. could be a little less or more or whatever, but that's kind of where I was landing as far as just initial numbers to use.
I could go along with that.
Okay.
At least something to look at and put in. It's currently not in there. And your time clock software changes, that's kind of a minimal thing, will it not?
Well, I thought, and like I said, I need to go through the numbers that we got yesterday. Jennifer and I got some, the timekeeping piece of itself would pretty much be a wash, because we do pay a service now with CIC, it's called Time Clock Plus. The same service essentially, we have some upfront fees to implement and to train, but it's not that much of a difference. However, when we add the timekeeping, the scheduling piece in for the 24-hour shifts, I'm not sure if they added an extra zero in their item or not, so I want to get some clarification, because I think the prices, and Jennifer's not in here anymore, but it's an increase. So
Okay.
I think it was, just to do one organization, I think it was 25,000, or one department was 25,000. And I don't need to get in more information. Is that a one-time cost that we might be able to use ARPA funds for, and then just have an annual maintenance fee after that? That's different compared to 25,000 every year, just for a scheduler. I believe both the sheriff and EMS only pay $2,000 or $3,000 a year for what they're using now. However, it's just we have this program that doesn't talk to this program, that's not talking to this program. The goal is to isolate and bring everything together. So for that, I want to get some more information before, and then I can bring that back to the commission on an agenda item to discuss and explain a little bit more.
Okay.
And we do have some plans, depending on where we go with it. Finney County has the program, so we're going to go down to Garden City with the sheriff, with EMS, HR, and look at how they're using the system, how they like it, see it from a user perspective and not a sales perspective.
Makes sense. Okay.
On paid time off, are there employees that have, I mean, do they have to, can they max out at a point, or there's some organizations, people work 20 years and they never use their paid time off, and they got 6 months worth, and then they retire, and you basically have to pay out 6 months worth of paid time off at once. Is that
Correct.
the case with Ellis County kind of?
So for an Ellis County, depending, you have one model for the employees, most employees, then you have a separate model for EMS because of their 24-hour work period. But essentially, for the majority outside of EMS, everybody can accumulate a certain amount of hours, and then at the end of the year, they can only hold over 200 hours. So if they have 190 hours, they roll that over till the next year. If they have anything over 200 at the end of the year, that goes into an extended leave bank. Depending on the years of service that they have, back when some contract negotiations with the union took place, I don't remember that cutoff year, 1995 maybe? 91. Some employees can acquire or hold up in their extended leave balance 1,440 hours. All new employees since that was only 720. So that's essentially a short-term disability policy. However, we have that liability held over every year for them to be able to tap into. They can't use that extended leave until they use 40 hours consecutive PTO, and then they can use that extended leave. And then the extended leave based on where they're at the end of the year, or when they decide to retire, they have several options on how they can get paid out. Part of it's based on their years of service to the county, so the longer you work, the more dimes to the dollar you get on that. And then also the amount of time that you give notice. If you give more than a year's notice, that way it can be budgeted and planned out and paid out over 2 years. It can be split out as well. So that's, in a nutshell, how we have the PTO program. We do see a lot of people still that have a lot of time built up that they don't take a lot of time off. And we have a lot of employees take as much time off as they earn and don't really keep track, and department heads or elected officials sometimes have to tell them, you can't take off because you don't have any time off. So it's kind of all over the board there.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions on the budget. So.
Not at this time. I guess we'll see, we'll get a few more numbers put together and see upcoming.
Yep, in the coming weeks, I'll have more time to give you more budget estimates. I'll be able to update some of this within the budget. The county clerk is having a fun time working on valuations to get our revenue neutral rate calculated, our assessed valuation totals and everything to fill out determine the mill levy. So as soon as she gets that, I'll be able to start working on the state budget forms and compared to what our draft budget looks like, so we can see where we're at and how much flexibility we have with the next year's budget to discuss some of these items or not.
And for one clarification point before we move on, that was keeping our mill levy
Correct.
level the same.
As we are now, current estimates without these items that are not listed in the budget, that would actually reduce our mill levy. Based on, I have no idea what the assessed valuation will be yet, so there's too many factors, and I don't know what our R&R rate is yet. Probably she'll hopefully maybe be done by this week.
Hopefully by the end of the week.
So I'll be able to narrow that down, but as of now, it looks like if we did none of these options, including the noxious weed, public works, dispatch, that would reduce the budget by a couple mils. And whatever position that we come back with on what options you would like to choose, I know the commissioners have individually expressed that they would like to keep that mill levy lower, down to about around the 37. It's currently at 37.575, and that will also fluctuate when the final budget is done come November with final valuations. So we'll try to keep whatever options the commission decides to put in and keep it at a funding level to get us at 37 mils, which is a slight decrease.
Okay.
Next week's commission, we have outside agencies coming in with requests at that point. correct?
I'm sorry, I did forget that I didn't put that as a bullet point, but they are here next week. Please do prepare for several hours of meeting with the 20 different agencies. They're here to visit with you, but their request right now in the 2023 budget, their allocation is right at 1.2 million. The funding request that they had requested for the increase for 2024 is about 115,000 more. So that also plays into account that if you increase their funding requests, it would decrease the amount of options that you could do for some of these others in the county as well.
Got it. Okay.
And there is a spreadsheet in there. I think it just wasn't, I think it got cut off in the way the agenda was put together, but I did send you a separate email to include that in there.
Okay. Very good. All right. Moving on, County Administrator Report. Darren, have you talked enough yet?
Yeah. Three things. First, the special commission meeting in July. I believe I've asked each commissioner and got response back, but we would, sounds like July 18th, which is the regular commission meeting, will work best. So we will have a regular commission meeting that day and then adjourn. And I'll ensure that we get a good location set up, and then we'll have a special meeting following the regular commission meeting to meet with all the department heads to go over their budgets. So that's, wanted to make sure that, and I'll send you a calendar invite for your review. The second item is, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we did meet with GLMV for several hours yesterday and trying to make some cuts and corrections to the plans for the new Public Works building. That building, we do have the plans now done, complete, or we don't, they do, at 75%. So I did send those out to the commission, and we're kind of past, or to the point where it sounds like through conversations, I think with Nathan last night, there doesn't seem to be any changes that the commission would like to see in those plans. If you could maybe spend a couple more minutes this week looking at them and let me know, so that way we can inform GLMV if there's anything that we need to change. We change it now before we get to all the final plans here in the coming weeks of this month. And as we were on the call yesterday, we did get the notice of intent to proceed with the excavation and movement of dirt on site. So we will be able to start allocating employees and equipment up there. And I know with Nathan's request, Commissioner Liker's request, we will still weigh the option, do we need to be on the roads doing work when it's raining? or do we spend time up there moving dirt? So Brendan is aware of that, and we'll make sure that if we can be out on the roads, we will, but when we're not, we'll spend time up there. And I did confirm with Justin in the solid waste. Jim sounds happy to take their scraper up there and start moving dirt as well. So that way it'll take less public works staff off doing road and bridge improvements. So we'll start doing a lot more work up there in the coming months. And the last thing I wanted to share is we did get the final allotment for all the equipment that did sell off Purple Wave off that last round. And the total amount was $144,310. So another successful auction of surplus equipment that most of it was the trade-in from vehicles that we got the new fleet from Enterprise. So with that, I will now, I'm done.
You're done? And you're gone coming up, correct?
I'll be here next week, and then after the commission meeting, I'll be leaving town for the rest of the week.
Okay. County Commission reports this time. I have no report.
I don't know, it seems like we should have been gone for 3 weeks. But no, I don't have anything.
Okay.
We do have executive sessions. So
Okay.
yeah, we do that first, right? We don't close the meeting. I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 30 minutes under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is contract negotiations. Open session will resume at
10:45.
10:45. Those in attendance in addition to the Board of County Commissioners are Bill Jeter and Darren Myers.
Okay. I'll second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
I didn't get here in time for public comment, but I visited with Neil Younger last night at the Ellis City Commission meeting. And the other day when we had that heavy rain south of Ellis, I was on that 5-mile blacktop. And last fall, I think you guys did a tour.
Last spring, last month.
Yeah.
No, April.
And they reworked it, and it's way better.
Okay.
And the dust control has went away. It used to be so dusty. But, you know, originally we had asked for the potholes to be filled, but they didn't have the oil and the hot mix at that time. There was none available. The potholes have since increased in size. And when I was coming down it the other day when it was raining so hard, you couldn't pick and choose where the potholes were because they were full of water. And they have probably doubled in size since last fall. So also the parts that you reworked when it was raining, I slowed down. It is slick. It's not so bad it'll take you to the ditch, but it's slick. And I'd like to have somebody run out and see what that looks like now after that hard rain, how much material has moved, and consider doing some work to the potholes out there
Okay.
as soon as possible.
Okay. Have you talked to Brennan?
I have not.
Okay.
And that's what Neil told me to try to catch Brandon.
Yeah, we'll try and do that and take a look and see.
Okay.
So it's on the list of.
Okay. All right. He just wanted me to,
So-
being that hard rain, you know, you couldn't see the potties. And I was pulling a nurse trailer and it would throw you,
Okay.
especially when they're full of water.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dean.
I can let Brendan know.
Did you?
I can, I'll call him afterwards.
Okay.
came out of executive session at 10:45. No decisions were made. So I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for 15 minutes under the following exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception. The subject to be discussed during executive session is employee matter. Open session will resume at 11 o'clock in the commission chambers. Those in attendance, in addition to the Board of County Commissioners, are Bill Jeter, Darren Myers.
I'll second that.
executive session at 11 o'clock. No decisions were made.
Okay, with that, move to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.